Welcome, paisanos, to another episode of Calcio Culture. On today's episode, we will be talking about Coppa Italia final, match week 37, pure chaos, with goals, red cards, and more dropped points. We had 29 goals scored, 4 first place lead changes with late PK drama, 7 total red cards, 2 players, and 5 managers. Atalanta securing third place. Milan said no thank you to European footy. Juve and Roma secure European ball with wins. Como finish in 10th. Cagliari secure safety. And then we have a preview of match week 38 and what is left to play for on the final match day. We have the Scudetto, the final Champions League spot, Europa League spot, Conference League, and then 2 relegation spots between Verona, Parma, Lecce, Empoli, and Venezia.
Ciao ragazzi, we're back for another episode. You got Vos and Mats on the horn today. Logs, in typical fashion, is back on another hiatus. We had an insane match week 37. The scheduling, I was kind of out on at first, but all the matches happening at the same time ended up being some fantastic football. I tweeted about it. I said before the matches started, you better be watching Serie A if you don't already. And I was 100% right. It was absolute chaos. It was classic Serie A with so much drama, red cards flying, bunch of managers sent off. Set up a very interesting last match week 38, though, Mops.
Yeah, going to be a crazy match week 38. Match week 37 was insane. I think you tweeted it out. If you're not watching, or this is the reason why you should be watching Serie A, just because of the absolute chaos that happened in match week 37. I did kind of agree with you. All the 245 games, or putting the slates at 245, was tough because you can't watch them all and you can't concentrate on everything. But it worked out amazing. Like I was watching the Napoli game, and when Inter had that PK, all the Napoli fans went berserk, and so it worked out great. Don't know why they're not doing it again, but we'll get into all of that this episode. Excited for you. This was a crazy match week, and I anticipate match week 38 being the same. But before we kind of dive into it, want to give two players shout outs. It is their birthday today. The first one is the GOAT, the best player of all time in my eyes, Andrea Pirlo. Happy birthday. And he shares a birthday with a up-and-coming Italian defender who is a friend of the pod, Riccardo Calafiori. Turns 23 today. So happy birthday to both those paisanos.
2 Italian legends. One of them on the upswing, one of them nowhere to be found these days, I don't believe.
Yeah, but Sampdoria could have used them.
Yeah, they could have, clearly. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But before we get into match week 37 and 38, we do need to talk about a massive moment that happened midweek, right? It feels like this was like a month ago after this weekend. But the Coppa Italia final was played in Rome, and Bologna ultimately won that game, hoisting their first trophy in 51 years on the back of a Daniel Ndoye goal. And for the most part, watching that game, I thought Bologna bossed it. I think the stats actually paint a better picture about Milan than what actually happened. And this is just I'm excited that this happened. I think everybody's very happy for Vincenzo Italiano because his whole thing has been not being able to win trophies. He got to finals of Fiorentina, couldn't get it done, was kind of stagnant with Fiorentina. A lot of the narrative around this team this year, especially we've talked about, I think you've said a lot, Mats, is we've seen great football, but it's more or less the same thing we saw at Fiorentina. Like, he's going to finish in maybe a Conference League spot. It's hard to say. We're going to see what happens at the weekend. But with this now, he finally has something to point to. Like, I got this one done. The product on the pitch looks phenomenal. And to actually get a trophy with that says a lot. I don't think there was ever going to be a discussion around letting Italiano go at the end of the year. But this definitely, I think this amplifies his stock because everybody likes Italiano, knows what he's capable of. But it's probably always been a question of what caliber manager is he actually, if he could never get Fiorentina past that hump. It seems like Bologna is going to get better next year and maybe push for a higher up European spot, get back in the Champions League maybe. But at the end of the day, massive trophy, first major trophy in 51 years for Bologna.
Yeah, and first trophy for Italiano, right? Got to 3 straight Euro Conference League finals, lost them all. So he finally got that monkey off his back, and who knows, maybe this is going to be the momentum he needs to string together some trophy winning seasons with this Bologna squad. But massive for their Bologna's history, being 51 years since they last won the Coppa. And their sporting director actually said in an interview before the game, which one would you prefer to win? Fourth Champions League spot, that fourth place spot, or the Coppa? And he said, Coppa, I want these fans to lift a trophy. It's been so long. And they got it done. And so now Bologna is building something here. We said that at the start of the season. They're Yes, they kind of got picked apart, but we did see that they kept some of their pillars around and they're building something, and now they have a trophy on their resume as well. Once again though, they're gonna have to fend off some people buying their players again in the summer, and then reload. But Bologna is officially taking this next step and becoming into the upper echelon of teams in this league, and I think is going to be a force. It's not going to be an easy out when you play Bologna in the future.
Definitely. I think the other thing that this Coppa Italia win does do, I think players are maybe more apt to staying at this point, because if they finish this, no European ball, no trophies, it's very different from you're automatically qualified for Europa League now, so you don't necessarily need to be in that spot. All these players have a trophy. They play great together. So maybe there is a case now to keep Lukumi from leaving, to keep Daniel Ndoye from leaving. Even Lewis Ferguson's
Orsolini,
linked elsewhere.
yeah.
There's so many players like this that now maybe there is a case for them to stay.
Possibly. That's not a bad shout. And what I will say is, obviously, last year with what Bologna did, nobody saw it coming. Amazing, they made the Champions League. Maybe that came too quick, right? The Champions League is obviously a different beast in and of itself. We haven't had an Italian team win it since Inter, although Inter and Juventus have been in the Champions League final, the only teams to be in the Champions League final over the last like 20 years for a Serie A squad. So even Italy teams are somewhat struggling in that competition, but them in the Europa League, I don't see them. I see them being a one of, or maybe not the favorite, but a top 4, top 5 team in that competition, and it being very realistic for them to go win that trophy and hoist that at the end of the season in the Europa League, because of how good their players are and how good they play as a team.
Yeah, especially with now having Champions League experience. Granted, they were bad in the Champions League this year. They weren't ready yet. They weren't at their peak form. But now you have that experience of playing against some of the best teams in the world, traveling outside of the country, that sort of thing. And then when you take that into the Europa League, there's nothing wrong with winning the Europa League either. I think the
Europa
Europa
League is
League
a
has kind
great
of been,
tournament.
yeah, it's been poo-pooed a lot as kind of like a, some people say, I mean, Lobe say, punt the Europa League if you're Bologna next year, 100%. And that is not the case. I mean, we saw everybody go for it. Everybody's devastated and they get knocked out of it. It's another trophy that you can win, and if you have an opportunity to go win it, you have to go for it.
I also think this is going to play or a huge factor in their favor with having Italiano, because obviously he didn't do good in the Champions League, but we know he knows how to manage multiple competitions, getting Fiorentina to multiple finals, and especially in European competitions. Yes, it was the Conference League, so it's a slight step up, but we know he can manage 2 competitions. And I back them to make a deep run in that tournament this coming year, which will be exciting to see.
And the Europa League money is always important too, just for a little bit of boost. They definitely going to need to build up the squad, but even now, they have a little bit more depth than I think people are realizing. I mean, Pobega is not a number 1 starter. He's great off the bench. Dalinga he hasn't scored a lot, but when he's played instead of Castro, he offers a little bit more of like link up play.
He's starting to find his form as well.
Yeah, he's deadly too in a different sort of way. So when you have that kind of striker partnership, you can kind of keep them. The big thing is definitely going to be Ndoye and Orsolini. I don't know what's going to happen. I think if they lose both
Lukumi
of
as
them,
well.
they need to keep one of the 3 of those guys. I would say if you're going to raise money, probably get rid of Lukumi if you have to point somewhere. I think that's kind of replaceable. Yeah. He's just a really athletic defender, more or less.
He does have mental lapses as well. Like he's been poor in some games. Like he was the reason why Milan scored like 2 of their goals in the match beforehand. So he has really high highs and really low lows. So you can definitely move on from it. I'd also just say last year, people or teams, mostly in the Prem, but across all of Europe, picked apart their team, right? And they reloaded, right? They got guys that no one's ever heard of, and they're in the same spot that they were in last year. So I have full faith in the athletic or the front office at Bologna and Italiano to rebuild, rejuvenate the squad with whoever ends up departing. 100%.
At this point, Spalletti has to take Orsolini, right? Or at least give him a look at some point here.
Yeah, I mean, Orsolini, he didn't do it in the Milan game. Once again, the game in the league when he scored, but he's been his classic Selly over the last like 2.5, 3 months. After he scores, is he goes and knocks on the camera, like he's knocking on the door for Spalletti to take him to the national team. I don't see how you can't take him. Like he's in better form than Chiesa right now because he's playing. He would probably start off the right. Who else would start? Like he's better than Politano. Who you who starts? I mean, if
Yeah, I mean,
they might run a
it's
3-5-2,
if
but
they, yeah, that's what
yeah,
it ultimately comes down to. Spalletti's doing all that funky stuff, and I guess that's going to be a conversation when next call ups. We'll see where that's at. But I mean, this is the perfect way to end the year for Bologna at this point in match week 38. Whatever happens, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I actually don't think the game matters at all, actually, because they're fully out of Champions League. They're in Europa League. It's kind of a wash for them. So I would say successful season. Shout out to Italiano. You can't really ask more of him than this. And only the sky's the limit now for Bologna going into next season.
agreed, 100%.
All right,
Happy
with
for
that
them to raise that trophy.
yeah, it was amazing scenes on the pitch too after the game. So that was great. But we got to move on now. Match week 37. Insanity. Whole thing
Chaos.
was insane. It was absolute chaos the entire time. In every game for all the spots. It was up and down table, absolute insanity. We're gonna start with the Scudetto race because I think that's obviously the most important thing right now. Napoli and Inter still in it. Like Mott said on the little preview before this, there were 4 first place league changes in this, and at one point it looked like Inter were going to win, and then at another point the Inter game ended in a draw, and then Napoli had a penalty in like the 96th minute that went to VAR. The penalty aspect of it was confirmed, but there was a alleged foul in build-up play from Gio Simeone, which ultimately canceled out the penalty, and that would have been a walk-off penalty to win the Scudetto, which would have been absolutely
Insane.
insane. But really
It,
quick on that, was it a penalty for you? I guess we'll start with the Napoli game because I think that's going to be a little quicker.
okay. I think that it was a penalty, but there was a clear foul in the buildup. Like Napoli fouled them to get the ball back. So I understood why they called it no penalty because the reason why they got in that spot was a foul. So I agreed with the call. What about you?
I thought it was a little bit of a tough foul to pull back the penalty. I guess with like the stakes that were on the line, probably the safer thing to do if you're the ref. Like
It's crazy. I mean,
that is a very difficult decision to go to the board and be like, I'm probably deciding the Scudetto on this call in the 97th minute of a game.
yeah, I thought Simeone like really did like he clipped him on the ankle and he leaned into him and he definitely got him. But I thought I mean, if that wasn't the case, it was obviously a clear PK. Like he got fouled. David Neres got murdered in
Yeah,
the box.
100% murdered.
But I think that was good refereeing. They went to um, VAR. It's a little frustrating for Napoli and Napoli fans because he didn't make the call right away and you played out the game. And then that's what happened at the end of the run of play. So that's frustrating, and that's kind of what we have with VAR now. But I do think in the end, the right call was made in
Yeah, I would
terms of
agree with
no
that.
penalty.
I would agree with that. And interesting about this game for me, I thought Napoli didn't play particularly well. I think this was partially Conte being aware of the score of the Inter game in knowing that Cagliari at home is a much more secure 3 points. And I don't think he really went for it. When Inter were winning and then Lazio leveled it, it was kind of like he like panicked on the bench. And they're like, okay, they were like scrambling. It looked
That
like to
was
me, and
right, like
not
that
knowing whether to attack or defend, kind of thing.
right when Inter leveled it, or Lazio, excuse me, leveled it on the penalty. That's when Conte got the red card, which I
Yeah,
don't know what happened or why he overreacted like that, but he was trying to fight someone on the Parma pit on the Parma sideline. He had to get like grabbed by Lukaku and like ushered off the field by like three people. It was classic Conte just going berserk. But you got to keep your head. Now Conte's
yeah.
not in the last game. That's big. Um, but obviously neither is Inzaghi. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But just absolute chaos. I don't know what happened in that moment because I just know that Lazio got that. They scored the PK. Like the commentator literally said Lazio just tied it up, and then they cut to Conte getting a red. So I have no idea what happened. But what I'd say is, I said Parma was going to be a tough game.
No, they
Number
were
one,
very tough. They
they were
could have
very
won this game.
they could have, but I don't think that like you have to go for this game. Like Conte, I think he needed to send his guys out there more aggressively because they had all the ball the whole game, but they didn't really have a ton of great chances. They had that Zombo chance. They had some good free kicks, and I do think Parma's goalie played exceptionally well. He saved a bunch of goals. Um, but you got to just kind of go grab the game and go grab the Scudetto here. I don't think they did that. And to play off of what you think Inter's doing
Mm.
is not a good strategy at all because at the end of the game, they almost did score in the 96th minute with the Cherby when Barella made that great turn. So then that just blows up in your face if you're playing for Inter's tied, so we're fine. So that didn't make sense to me. And I would have liked to see these guys be much more aggressive. And I think that it was kind of very similar to the Genoa game. They weren't aggressive enough. Yeah, sure, they scored 2 goals, but you've had all you need to do is win, and you would have locked up the Scudetto, and not one person could go get that done.
No, I agree. And on the red card piece, when I was watching it, I thought that he was trying to communicate that we're like going to a back four or something like that. There was something trying to be communicated, and I think it wasn't getting across. And then he was freaking out and kind of didn't want play to restart until it had been sorted out. But he's just so explosive that he couldn't like reset. And it's a pivotal error. That is really bad that he got sent off. And you need your manager, the guy that gets everybody motivated on the bench. And like lucky for them, Inzaghi ended up doing the same thing.
Hmm.
But that was really bad. The other piece of this that that really stood out to me was, and I think this kind of goes back to what we talk about why this would be such a big achievement. When the Inter game was 2-2, and also when Inter were winning 2-1 and they were kind of having to chase the game, Conte was going to his bench, but there's nobody to bring on. Once
Hmm.
you bring on David Neres, there is actually no other firepower. Like he took off Lukaku to put on Gio Simeone, which I don't understand at all. Even if Lukaku has zero energy, like you just need him out there to take up space and be a nuisance. But like the other guys he's bringing on are Philip Billing, Mitsuki, and
Billing looked
Udogie.
terrible.
Yeah, Billing's not up to it. Billing had that one massive goal against Inter, but he's not
Hmm.
like a goal scoring threat or anything like that. There's just nowhere to go. And it even goes back to the Folarunshu thing. Folarunshu would have been helpful to bring on. And the fact that they were able to do this, granted, without 1 game a week, they are actually fucked. If they have to play 1 game a week, they don't have a team.
Well,
But
they'll get
that's
money
just another
from
thing.
Victor Osimhen. They'll be able to buy more players.
And I thought Raspadori is back to his old ways in this one and not irrelevant.
Yeah.
But again, Scott McTominay played phenomenal again. The Suzuki save on his free kick was ludicrous. And then the other thing is Alex Moret saved the game a couple times too.
He did.
That's
He
also
did.
important to note that like cannot overstate like Parma very much could have won this game.
Yeah. I mean, dude, for whatever reason, Napoli, like Politano, wasn't in at the end of the game. It was more like Spinazzola a little bit, but I thought more Oliveira. They both had multiple chances to cross the ball into the
Mm.
middle with Lukaku, Zombo, and Scott McTominay in the box, and they just kept not crossing it in. They just wanted this recycled play, recycled play, recycled play. They never really got the ball in a dangerous area besides when Zombo went beast mode and flicked it over somebody and then hit the post and then Scott McTominay's free kick. Other than that, there wasn't like clear cut oh my goodness, great chances for Napoli. And I think it was just because they weren't kind of sending it. Like they just weren't really trying to put the ball in a dangerous area, like you said, which to me makes no sense because you win this game, you win the league. You know, like no matter what happens in the Inter game, you win it, you win the league.
I mean, do you think that was Conte though? Because I do. I think it was don't take risks, and part of that was don't cross the ball when two of our midfielders are in the box. Like, not every time, obviously, but it just seemed to me like they were playing for don't lose this game.
I mean,
We'll monitor
clearly, because
Yeah,
if you just look at the stats, that's what it says. Like they have 70% possession in a .38 xG. The second half, their xG is .06. So they're not trying to play their hand or overshow their hand at all. But you got to go try to score.
yeah, I agree. Want to move on to Inter? Yeah,
Yeah.
really, really quick on Parma though. Just I don't want to talk about them too much because I hope they don't get relegated. A lot of great players on this team. They're very exciting. I like the way they play. I think Boni's gonna leave. I think he should go to Napoli actually because he's been phenomenal. I think that would be
He's had
get
some links
perfect.
to Inter.
Yeah, I think he's linked to a lot of different teams. He's very good. Same thing with Soam. There's a lot of good guys on this team. The captain Ben
Suzuki.
Pronto, I really like Suzuki. So it'll be interesting. If they go down, they're definitely getting picked apart. If they stay up, they're still getting picked apart a little bit,
Yeah.
but it'll be interesting. Other game, a little bit more entertaining. 2-2 shootout in this one. Inter were up. They scored in 47th minute of the first half on a corner. Classic Inter, getting a corner kick, scoring on the corner. Acerbi netted that one.
No, but
Then
Bisic.
Oh, Bissek, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm still on Barcelona. Then later on in the game, 72nd minute, Pedro scores off of kind of like a couple deflected balls in the box, lands at his feet. He nets it. Then who else? Denzel Dumfries then scores. And then in the 90th minute, there's a penalty called. It went to VAR. It was definitely a penalty in my mind. It was a handball on Bissek.
He clearly moved his elbow into that ball to stop it from getting by him.
Yeah, Pedro steps up, nets this one, makes it 2-2 again. And then in, I think the 93rd or 94th minute, Inter score,
Well,
but
no,
it's
I
called
think
back for offsides.
so. I think that was 95th or 6th actually. But even before then, Arnautovic had a
Oh my God, I forgot
clear-cut
about that.
chance, and he whiffed on the ball. He easily should have and could have put that away, and then Inter would the Scudetto would be in their hands rather than Napoli's hands. So he's got to be kicking himself there. The offsides, he was definitely offsides, 100%. The ball wasn't going in, so he did need to touch it, or else um, uh, the Lazio goalie would have gotten it for sure. But obviously frustrating for Inter knowing that the ball went in, but it was a clear offsides.
Yeah, the other thing I think that Inter will be disappointed in is they destroyed Lazio in this game. There is no reason that this game should have been a draw. They were all over them. They had the ball. They were creating. I guess they didn't create a whole bunch of clear-cut opportunities, but it was still ball domination. They were just nothing Lazio all over the field. They probably didn't get enough crosses in. And this is what Lazio have done this year. They've pulled out 2 draws at the San Siro. They played like shit and still got it done. This is what Pedro's been doing all year, just pulling points out of his ass for this team.
He has been.
And then Jan Sommer again came up big and stopped a 1v1 earlier in the game against Isaacson, where Lazio could have gone up, I believe, 1-0 at that time. So I think Inter are going to be disappointed in not winning this game. They had a lot of chances and could have done it. And then the other big thing we have to talk about, Inzaghi losing his head, and he gets sent off, and Baroni gets sent off too. And this again, it was just chaos.
I didn't
think
know
everybody was it what like it. I think it was something was said is what happened.
Baroni, like you're getting the PK. They're going to. He got the red card right before the ref was going to check the screen. Like you got what you asked for. They kind of similar situation to the Napoli part where they allowed play to continue. Like they allowed play to continue about a minute or so until the ball went out, and then the ref was like, "All right, I'm gonna go check." And Baroni is still screaming at him to get a red card when he's doing what you want him to do. So I thought that was very bad on Baroni's part. And then once you saw the guy go into VAR, I think everybody knew it was a penalty, and then I just assumed Inzaghi was getting it because he screams at all times. But still not good for Inzaghi. So now both Napoli and Inter to win the Scudetto do not have their managers on the sidelines in match week 38. And that's a big hole.
That's a really weird one to navigate. Like I don't know. Like anything could happen in these games. Like there's so much at stake. Players could drop the ball, people could get hurt. And if you're not there, it's just another one of the things that's not a constant that you're changing for this game. Like it's another variable that comes into play that you don't need to do. Granted, they should probably win their next game. They both should. But you don't know now. Like you don't need to throw these random grenades into the mix.
Listen, they should have won this game. Lazio didn't have two of their best players. They were suspended because of the Juventus game. And Inter rolled out all the dogs. The only player that did not play and could not play that was out was Lautaro, obviously recovering from the hamstring injury.
And for
But
Tenzi, if we want to count that.
yeah, but
not
but
really.
he's coming off the bench. So you played your starting 11, and you had firepower coming off the bench with Zielinski, Carlos Augusta. We know Arnautovic is a proven player in this league. So you played all the dogs and you still didn't get it done. And it just goes back to what we've said all year about Inter. For whatever reason in this league, the mental lapses at the end of games, they don't have it in the Champions League. For whatever reason, I don't understand it at all, but it happens in the league time and time again. And they, at home, winning this game 2 different times to fumble it. You are up, you are leading the league, or you're winning the Scudetto right now, to fumble it 2 different times, not good. And can kind of maybe goes back to your point on Inzaghi and how maybe you do move on from him, or maybe there is a conversation to be had, because it's time and time and time and time again where Inter have dropped points at the end or let a late goal in to allow them to drop points.
And you just go back to what they've done well in the Champions League is just defend. Defend against the literal best teams in the world at offense. You're up 2-1. There's 10 minutes left. Like, just defend well. You're up 1-0. Do what you do best. Defend and hit them on the counterattack. They're playing like shit anyway. So just let them have the ball. If you're getting overrun, then get back on the ball and move forward. But like defend and counter. That's your bread and butter. And it's why I question Inzaghi, really. There's been so many games like this, like you're saying, that they could have gotten it done. And it's just, another one.
Think about how different we're talking about Inter and Inzaghi if a couple of these games where they've allowed 80th minute goals don't happen. They have the league locked up. They're in the Champions League final. They obviously aren't winning the treble, but they could win the league and the Champions League. Like, now we're talking about, are they as good as the Inter from 2010 that were able to win the treble, but so on. Like, that's the conversation we're having, not this conversation about what is it with Inter and why can't they finish games in the league, but they do it so well in the Champions League. And it's clear, obviously, they value the Champions League more. Like, that's not a question about it. But how are you not seeing we are one step away from winning the league as well? Let's go get that. Like, how are you not seeing that and locking in? It really makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. I mean, yeah. I mean, you don't even have to change the way you play, really. You won the league counterattacking. Just do it.
I think they won the league counterattacking as well, but what I think it is they're a little less good in possession. Like before, like last year in possession, they could just pass it around you and you could not get it. This year, they can't really do that for whatever reason. I don't know why, but they don't have the ball as much as they did last year, and defend with the ball. So that could be a reason.
I mean, do you think Lautaro maybe makes a difference in this one? Because I do feel like part of their dominance was his one-touch finishing, and with him being in and out of the squad, that it could
Yeah.
contribute.
I mean, it has to, right? He's their best goal scorer. He's their leader. He's their captain. He's one of their best players. It definitely makes a difference, but you got to be able to get this done without him. It's one game. You're at home. You know, if you win this game, you could potentially jump Napoli. You should be just as motivated as Napoli.
Yeah.
And both of them didn't. I'd say Inter came out much more motivated because they I think they understood the assignment a little bit more than Napoli did. And Bissek just kind of made a reaction and got screwed. But still, got to get it done. Got to score more goals. Got to create more
Honestly,
chances.
I kind of like shut the game off because I was like 1-0. I shut it off, and then Lazio scored and I put it back on because the whole thing felt like, okay, they finally got one. It's gonna be floodgates. Like the San Siro exploded when they scored, and it was just like, okay, this is just gonna be downhill. Lazio's playing bad. Inter are just gonna run this into the ground. Like this is it. This is kind of like Inter taking over the Scudetto race, and it still didn't happen. And there's not really an explanation for it. But now it's gonna come down to a last game, and Napoli are in the lead.
It's not in
Both
Inter's
teams,
hands, which it could have been. It could have been
yeah,
in their hands. But to flip it to Lazio, what I'll say about them, I know I probably lead the charge about never giving them any flowers. Over the last two games, they need to win or draw. They can't. They're in a tight race with Roma and Juve for this fourth spot, which I didn't think they'd be anywhere near. So credit to them for having a chance to be in the Champions League spot. But when they need to go get a goal, they are all the guys forward and they all understand the assignment and they go get the goal that they need somehow,
yeah.
some way. And I think that goes to Baroni, even though he was off the pitch, or not really off the pitch when it happened, but he does a good job relaying the message and they all understand it and they get on the front foot when they need a goal, which it's good to see.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of teams that kind of understand that. Like once you're losing, it's like
Juventus
some.
doesn't understand that.
Yeah, Juventus is actually a very good example. They don't pour numbers. They're too scared to concede another goal, basically. And Lazio do not care.
They
They
send
just
them
go
all.
for it.
It's
Yeah, they
credit.
don't
Good.
care.
Like they not even that they don't care. They understand the moment, right? And they're
Yeah,
not afraid of the moment. They have some young players on this team. Like this is Robella's really first full season on a squad on a team that can compete for a Champions League, and he every moment is not too big for him, right? Yeah, they're defenders as well. Mario Gila, he's in every game. He's making large stops in every game. Like he's not afraid of the moment. It's great job by Baroni, great job by these players because that once you put them in a high pressure situation, they're not folding, they're rising, and they are scoring goals, creating. They're still in the race because of that, and they were dead both games, absolutely dead, and they came back and got what they needed to get done to allow them. It's still an uphill climb for them because they only tied the last two games, and Roma and Juve did win, but they are still right there because of that.
yeah. So where things stand for Lazio heading into last match day, they're in sixth place. They're 3 points clear, seventh place. So they're pretty firmly in that Conference League spot. If they all they need to a draw gets you there. A win might get you in a Champions League spot, depending on what happens. Probably unlikely, but I think everything you just said is spot on, Mats. And on Baroni, it seems like that's a culture, right, that he's building there. That we don't give up and we go for it, and that is really good because I think this project is probably ahead of schedule. And if they keep the players, they have a solid core. I think Ravella has become one of the best midfielders in the league. Tati Castellanos has stepped up big time. And Isakson has stepped up big time. Even Dia, like we're talking about these players. Mauro Gila has been a massive revelation for this team, and their defense was poor. So it's still gonna be interesting, and they're poised to get into European ball next season, which I don't think any of us had anticipated happening.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you in terms of these guys are way ahead of schedule. I thought they were going to be in 10th. They're steps away from the Champions League. They're going to probably spend some money. I don't know how much because Latito is poor, but they didn't spend any last summer. And if they just add a few pieces here and there, they'll be much better. They are exercising the Nuno Tavares obligation or option to buy on that loan. I know that. But a couple other players, maybe another 9 in case Tati goes down or somebody else to turn to. Because he likes to play more in that 10 spot or off the left or off the right. He is a goal scoring threat, but we saw that he can't be a 9 game in and game out. So that's probably where they need to focus this summer. But a couple other guys, they're going to be well in the Champions League race again next year for sure. And props to Baroni, he's done a fantastic job with Lazio.
100% agree. But moving on to a team that's probably underperforming expectations, behind schedule. The game that happened in Rome, Claudio Ranieri's send off at the Stadio Olimpico, Roma's last home game. Milan took a little visit south, didn't go great for them. Third minute, Mancini scores, the bane of Logan's existence there. And in the
Bullies. Bullies, Tamori. Just straight up bullied him. Tamori didn't even try to go for that ball.
and then from bad to worse, Santi Jimenez sent off in the 21st minute.
Not
I
needed.
said it. He's a liability out there. He's one that gets into this.
I was just gonna say he kind of lost his spot in this lineup, right? They brought him in 30 million in December, didn't really perform. Is a hothead, almost got a red card another game, wasn't scoring, didn't do much, lost his spot. They were playing Luka Jovic and Tammy over him. They were giving him time every now and then. He started to score on his few minutes that he was getting. So Conceição rewarded him, and what happens? It bit him in the ass because that's what you get when you play. Sure, he can score goals, but he is, just like you said, a hothead who can do this at any point in time. It was not needed at all to do that. What are you thinking? You're losing your head.
Yeah, in a massive game. Like Milan were still in the European race up until this point, and this game solidified that. Well, we'll finish up here. João Felix then scored in the 39th minute. First goal in the league for him, actually, which is kind of crazy. That's a dry loan. He is not coming back. But then, in classic Milan fashion, they end up fucking the game up. Paredes scores on a free kick. I don't know what Mike Magnan was doing. It was a great free kick from Paredes. I'm not going to take anything away from him. But you cannot get beat there at the near post from that far out. If you're Mike Magnan, what are you doing? It was a one-man wall, I think.
I think two,
Like,
man. You
it's
can't.
just
If you look at it,
unacceptable.
though, he's there. His hand's just not in the right spot. It's a terrible goalkeeping error. But great shot from Paredes. Good power, good accuracy. You still got to cover that if you're Mignon, especially you being down 10 men. There's no room for error, and that was a pretty big error.
Yeah, and then in the 87th minute, Brian Cristante cleans it up. He's had a great couple of weeks. I think this is his second goal in 3 games or something.
Yeah, he scored. He scored in the Atlanta game and the Atalanta game.
Yeah, so good for him to kind of get going. He's actually maybe solidified a spot in the team, not starting spot, but a place in the team. Versus Pellegrini, who has basically just been useless even when he's had his opportunities. So it is good to see that one happening. And this is a dichotomy, this game, because we have Roma on one hand, who is now 1 point off of a Champions League spot, which was unheard of 6 months ago, and AC Milan, who spent a war chest in the summer and then basically restarted the whole thing again in January with all this money. I want to talk about Milan for just a quick second, because I think we've kind of beaten this horse dead, and maybe it's a bigger conversation when the season ends, because this is it. Their season's over. There's nothing left to accomplish. Players are going to be leaving. Loans are going to be ending. No Champions League football, no European football at all. And we didn't even talk about how they really lost the Coppa Italia, and that could have been a season-saving win. But overall, final thoughts on Milan. I don't think we should spend more time on it.
Yeah, just poor season overall. The Coppa Italia game, they had no real chance in that game as well. We barely talked about them because there was nothing to speak about. And then you lost your trophy, right? The second trophy you could have won to potentially kind of salvage this season, right? But then all of a sudden you're kind of in this European race as well. You just stumbled in the European race. You win against Roma, and hey, maybe you can get a Europa, maybe you get conference on the bad season that you've had. And you come out, Conceição comes out with this insane lineup with a bunch of changes. Loftus-Cheeks barely played. Not Alex Jimenez is playing on the left rather than the right. João Felix, who's been out of the squad, is now starting. No Leao. It's like, what is going on?
No Leao makes zero sense.
Yeah, it was like, what is happening, especially when you have this momentum with what you found in the last 7 games. You have 0 losses besides the Copa, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins. Like, what? I don't understand. Oh wait, no, I'm looking at Roma. That's on me.
No, we talked about this. They've been playing great.
Yeah. So I don't
Not
understand.
great. Not great. I wouldn't say good. They've
They've
been getting
had some.
results. They've
They
been
yeah.
getting
They've been getting.
results.
They've
Yeah.
they've they kind of figured it out, and then he was just like, "Oh, I'm gonna outsmart everybody and change up this lineup." So just blew up in their face. This exact thing that's happened to them all year. So it kind of makes sense that it happened to them again in this big game. And where they go from here is going to be a very uphill battle because now it's about, can they keep Pulisic? Can they keep Reinders? Can they keep Leao? Can they keep Tio? Do they want to keep these guys? Can they keep Mignon? Who is going to stay? Who's going to go?
Who's even good enough at this point to play for Milan when you look at the team? It's a disaster.
Reinders, Pulisic.
Yeah, but they're gonna leave. They're too good to play.
Yeah.
I agree. And on top, the cherry on top, Contrasal also got sent off, so he's done for his Serie A career is over because he's not going to get
Yeah,
taken
he's
out,
not coming
unfortunately.
back.
So that's it. But on Roma, nothing really new, right?
It's a great game by
This is what
Roma.
they've been doing.
Fantastic game. I'll uh with the caveat that they were up a man since the 25th minute, so obviously they were going to dominate, but nothing new is right. Like their midfield just dominated. Paredes, Kone, and Cristante, Angelino, Sule looked great. Your boy Salamakers looked great. Not one player looked bad. It was a great game all around. It was amazing scenes at the end. Sending off Ranieri, he walked around the stadium. Roma fans just singing and praising his name. Absolute turnaround of the season. Took him from like 14th place to now 5th with a realistic chance of a Champions League. We've been saying it all year long, or since Ranieri's been there, how good he's done. If the season starts in December, they wouldn't have won the league. So absolute masterclass again from Roma and Ranieri.
Yeah, and they have a real chance now at Champions League ball. They're playing a lame duck team in Torino, and Juventus have a very difficult game, I would say. And Roma presumably are going to win, so the pressure is going to be on Juve to get something done. But even on Roma, I don't really have much to say. I'm happy that Sule got another assist. I think I can't say it enough. Sule at the beginning of the season versus now, completely different player. And when you go through the team, it's like almost at every level we're seeing that. Even Shmordov is being very effective in what he's doing. Like he's not the best player. That's kind of his ceiling. But even he's been like there's improvement everywhere. And it's just a question of what they're going to do in the summer to keep this going. But not much more on Roma here. I expected this result. Lowe's owes me a jersey because we bet on this result. Um, it's not surprising to anybody who's been
Yeah.
watching the league. This should not be a surprise.
Here's a question for you. So I think that we all had Roma in the Champions League spot this year, because of the offseason additions. We know how much of a rocky start it was. Can we classify this as a successful season for Roma if they finish 5th?
I think you have to because you have to make the adjustment because it wasn't one season. It was two different seasons. There was pre-Ranieri, which was De Rossi, and then I'm forgetting his name, Juric. And then it was the Ranieri season. And you can't even compare. And there had to be an adjustment as to what our expectations were. And it's hard to say they're not even meeting. Like if they had finished the season in 5th place at the start under De Rossi, people probably would have been okay with it. Like it wouldn't have been mind-boggling to say that if De Rossi made a Europa League run, got knocked out, and then finished back in 5th place again, he wouldn't get fired for that. I think everybody would say kind of expected, but not bad, not great. And under Ranieri now, we have to look at this as I don't know how you did this because it was so bad. So I would say successful season just because of what did occur.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think finishing in 5th place is bad, really. Or finishing, even if they finish in 6th, I think they're a little bit behind schedule. But if they do finish in 6th, they're going to win the Conference League next year. They are going to be the best team in the Conference League by so much if that's what they're doing. I hope that doesn't happen because I would like them to be in the Europa League or the Champions League. But yeah, that's my take on it. What about you?
Yeah, I'm pretty similar. I think the only difference is if it wasn't Rocky and they stuck with De Rossi the entire way, I think you don't look at this as successful because they added the players. They were just off the Europa League final last year. So I think Roma fans with De Rossi, like if they didn't fire him from the start, would have been not the happiest with the season. But because the season was what it was and it was so messy and rocky to start the season, you can look at it as a success because of how great the turnaround was and the win streak was, or the unbeaten streak was, with an under Ranieri. You can look at this and say we now have a core and pillars to build off of, and we just need to make the right hire and the right pass the baton to the right person to build on this. And then next year, it's Champions League or bust, and it's going far in whatever European tournament we're in.
Easier said than done, bringing on the right man. Well, let's keep it moving. The last team that's kind of in the you're currently in a European spot, fourth place, Juventus. It's moving on to the last team that is in a European spot still, Juventus in fourth place. I did not watch this game at the weekend, but they were at home against Udinese, and it seemed like the first time they had a complete game the entire season, just an utter domination from what it looks like on the stats. Nico Gonzalez did score again. He's kind of running a little hot, so maybe he does stay. Mott's not even out on him. And then I would say the most notable piece of this is most likely Dusan Vlahovic's last appearance at the Allianz and last goal at the Allianz as a Juve member.
Yeah, that's what it is trending or looking like in terms of Dusan. But in terms of this Juventus performance, got the job done, got what was needed to get done, but was not pretty at all. Um, in the first half, we were dominating the ball. We did create some chances, but there wasn't anything. There wasn't substance to it. There was only one real chance that Kolo Muani had, one-on-one with the keeper, didn't put it away. Other than that, there wasn't any real or scary, threatening chances. It was kind of looking like something that I said Lazio do very well and Juventus do very bad, not understanding the moment and not understanding what needs to get done, or shrinking in the moment when the pressure's on, because it was like the players didn't realize Roma's playing at the same time, and hey, they're winning, and if we don't win and we drop any points, we're now out of the Champions League spot. But then the second half happened, and we started turning things around, and there was one player who said, I know what this moment is. I'm not going to shrink in this moment. I'm going to rise up and take this game over. 19-year-old kid, Kenan Yildiz, took over this game, 2 assists. First one to Nico Gonzalez. Had 3 guys on him in the box, was able to pick his head up, find Nico. Nico slotted it away. Second goal in the 88th minute, he just ate up 40, 50 yards. No look pass to Dusan, who slotted it away. It was a good finish by Dusan. However, it took him 15 years to kick the ball. I thought for sure it was going to get blocked because he didn't want to kick it. But in the end, it went in, and we did get the job done. There's a lot needs to be cleaned up here, but Yildiz was able to take over. We missed him the last 2 games. I think if we have Yildiz for Bologna and Lazio, we come out winning one of those 2 games, probably the Lazio game, and we already have Champions League secured. So we definitely missed him those 2 games. Glad that he's back, and you see what this kid is about when the moments are the biggest. He tends to shine. So love to see that from him. He absolutely dominated. So that was great to see. But other than that, I think the other 2 players that stood out was Locatelli. I thought he had a great game just in terms of controlling the game and pacing it. And then I said it once. I said it last week. I'm gonna say it again this week. Maybe Giuntoli did something right in the winter mercado for the first time ever. Alberto Costa. He is a very solid player. He is aggressive defensively. He is composed on the ball. He makes right decisions. He looks to attack. He makes great runs, and he's a good defender. He hasn't had to do too much defending in these last couple of games, but when he's been called upon, he has been able to put out the fires. So I really, really like what I'm seeing from him. His stock is rising high quickly in this team, which is great. And so those three players to me were the standout players.
Question for you on Yildiz, because I think we've seen some good things from Yildiz, some bad things from Yildiz all season. He's been quiet. He's been great. What do you think needs to happen for him to become Juve's best player and what they want him to be?
I think he just needs his next step. If you go back and look at all the games he's performed on, it's the Udinese's, it's against Monza, although we got a red card. It's against Lecce. He is it needs to happen against when he scored 2 goals against Inter. It needs to happen against the big clubs consistently. If he makes that next step, he's going to be Juve's best player, and he's going to be one of the best players in Europe once he can make that step. And I think it's coming because he's done it. He has done it against the big clubs. It's just not that consistently. But he's a 19-year-old kid, right? So it's not there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be times when he makes some errors and learn from those mistakes. And that was this season. This was his first season as a full-time starter on the club, and I think he rose to the occasion this year with, I think he has 5 or 6 goals and 5 or 6 assists. I don't know the exact stats, but we got to remember this kid is 19 years old. Obviously, we have somebody in Barcelona who's even younger doing even better things, but not everybody's Lamine Yamal, right? So we just need to give him more time. But you can see it. I mean, compared to Conceição plays with his head down, doesn't look up, doesn't pass, wants to do the same thing every time. Yildiz is totally different than that. He's creative, head up, can go left, can go right, can do it all. So we just need continue feeding him, continue getting him or playing him, letting him grow, make mistakes, and he'll take that next step.
Good. Happy with Juve right now? How do you feel going into this game? I'm a little bit worried just because I don't have a lot of confidence in them to go and win a game. And it's always just feel like it's thrown together, like what we're trying to do in every game.
Yeah, they don't have a style of play. They don't know. They don't know what they're trying to do. They don't know how they're trying to do it. Yes, you do. Love it. But yeah, they don't know what they're trying to do. They don't know how they're trying to do it. They don't know what's going to happen. And when shit hits the fan and they let a goal up, they can't rise to the moment. They shrink to the moment. They don't have an experienced guy that can kind of lead them and tell them, hey, keep your heads. We are Juventus. They don't have that. So if anything goes wrong in this Venezia game, it'll be tough. I do like what all the players have said. This is a final against Venezia. We have a final. This was a final against Udinese. We have 2 finals. So I like what's coming out of the locker room, what they're saying to reporters, but we'll see what happens once we actually hit the pitch, because Venezia are going to be absolutely balls to the wall, dying on the pitch. And yes, Venezia did lose this past week, but before that, they've had 7 in the last 9 games. Venezia has either drew or won 7 of those games. So they are very tough to beat or win against in the last coming games. And when you play relegation, we know how a desperate a team can get, and they're going to have the home crowd. It's going to be tough. But listen, this is Venezia that we're talking about. That's fighting relegation, and this is Juventus. It shouldn't be that scary of a match.
True. That's a good point.
But it is.
Yeah,
it is.
It is. I got nothing to say on Udinese. They're going to finish kind of where they are. I don't think
Udinese is bad.
They started really well, and I don't think they've been overly exciting all year. I think they've been kind of a bad watch.
Here, I want to say one more thing here. I mean, this was a perfect game to play Douglas Luiz. Why are we not even giving him a chance? We sub him in the 80th minute every game. He is a good player. It's hard for somebody to come in or to play 9, 7, 10 minutes a game every game and be in form. Like I really wanted to see him play this game. We played him in the 81st minute, and that was it. He actually created the breakup that started the Yildiz and Dusan second goal. I would love to see him more. He's probably going to be gone next year, unfortunately. That's just what a player that didn't work out for whatever reason. Brazilians and Juventus don't get along that well. The only one that's like ever been very successful is Danilo long term, and then Dani Alves had like one incredible year that brought us to the Champions League final as a left back. Made no sense. But other than that, Juventus and Brazilian players kind of don't get along. But I would like to see him more this season, and maybe he'll. I doubt he'll play the next game, but I would like to see him.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to play next game. Why would you play him? Like, if he's either going to leave or he hasn't played all year. So it's like a wash. Let's deal with it next year kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll see though. If Juventus, this is obviously a massive, massive game. If Juventus don't make Champions League football, uh, not as big of a departure or kind of crisis as Milan is in right now. But don't get it twisted. Don't make a mistake. If they don't make Champions League football, failure for Juventus. A lot of players are going to be sold. Yildiz might be sacrificed, Cambiaso, so on and so forth. So this is a massive, massive game for Juventus, and if they don't get it done, they are. It will be a massive step back in terms of this Juventus project.
Yeah, and they have secured European ball. It's just a question of which spot they end up in. And
They need the
Champions League, they
Champions League
need the
money.
Champions League, correct. Yeah, good on Juve, good on Udinese. Keep it rolling. All right, another great game we had. This one was an absolute shootout. Vincenzo Italiano derby, Bologna at Fiorentina. Fiorentina notably had a lot of absences in this one. Goodmanson was on the bench but did not play, so presumably he was hurt. Zaniolo suspended, Beltran suspended, Foloronchu suspended. Pablo Mari also did not play in this one, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm wrong. He actually did end up playing in this one. But this was a great game. It was a 3-2 finish. We saw a bunch of lead changes, goal scorers in this one, and Fiorentina had to roll out a very weird lineup. They essentially paid three conventional wing backs, that's outside backs, and Gozens, Dodo, and Parisi. They were kind of forced into that move. But Parisi scored, opened it up in the 13th minute. Then Delinga brought one back for Bologna. Amir Richardson then took the lead again to make it 2-1. Orsolini scored in the 79th minute to level it. And then Moise Kean back on the goal sheet, 84th minute to win it. Big result for Fiorentina to stay in the hunt here and for Bologna to kind of be a couple steps back when they were very much in it.
Yeah. So obviously, all the games at 2:45, tough to watch them all. I'll be honest, did not watch this game fully, only watched the highlights of it. Moise Kean's goal. Three players touched that ball. It went to De Gea, to somebody to Kean. It was crazy. So kind of need to be better there on by Bologna in terms of defending because just based off the stats and the highlights that I watched, Bologna dominated this game. They had the ball the whole game. They created the most chances. For whatever reason, it was tied 2-2 at the end. I think they deserved to get a point out of this. And Fiorentina were able to steal the game at the end because of an insane counterattack that Bologna weren't locked in for the full 90 minutes. But at the same time, Bologna did rotate the squad heavily to start. And then they did win the Coppa game. So hard to stay motivated once, no matter what happens, you're in the Europa League spot. And they were always basically out of the Champions League spot after they lost to Milan in the league. So at the end, they could have finished higher in the table, but it's not that big of a deal that Bologna stumbled here because they already have that Europa League locked up. So it doesn't really matter if they finish in sixth or seventh. The only positive, if they finish in fifth, was that we could have another team finish in that Europa spot. But between Juventus and Roma, I think that's the clear 4-5. So kind of okay for Bologna here. Great result for Fiorentina, though. Great result because now they are fully in the Conference League competition here, and they can maybe sneak by Lazio if they get a little bit of luck. So very, very good result by Fiorentina. And this is kind of what we said Palladino and Fiorentina squad's been missing all year. They not being able to sneak out a win or playing worse than the other team and getting all 3 points. They were able to do that. So hopefully they can use that, build upon it on next season, and string together ugly wins like they did in this game.
Yeah, and I think to your point, they kind of ran into Bologna at the right time. I think a Bologna team that didn't play that midweek game, so much emotion in that one, maybe has a killer instinct to go and win this, but they were on such a high. They've already done what they need to do. They're in the Europa League. I think it's probably hard to motivate to go and grab the game, and they still almost did. So it's hard to read into this one. But yeah, I can't overstate. Great game for Fiorentina. Massive result. And just overall, great season for Palladino. No matter what happens here, I think everybody will be happy with him. But it's going to be an interesting battle for that Conference League spot because the whole Bologna and the Europa League really throws a wrench into things. And if Lazio get their business done, it's all obsolete anyway. But a couple other games happened here, guys, that we're just going to run through really quickly. We had Empoli go to Monza. Monza already relegated. Empoli very much in the relegation battle. They won that one 3-1. Venezia played Cagliari in Sardinia. Cagliari at home. Cagliari won this one 3-0. Played one of the best goals of the season in terms of a team goal when Piccoli finished off a great move in that one. But a crushing result for Venezia, really. This one brought Cagliari fully out of the relegation battle, so they're 100% safe. Venezia go into match week 38 in 19th place, 2 points back from Empoli. Then we had Torino go to Lecce. Lecce snuck that one out 1-0, which is huge for the relegation battle. They are tied with Empoli and tied in 17th and 18th. We had Como go to Verona, a 1-1 draw there. Como solidifying 10th place. Massive achievement, I think, for Cesc Fabregas and his whole team. I think the sky's the limit for them. Really exciting project. Hopefully everybody stays. But for Verona, big point, honestly, because they're 3 points out of relegation right now, but they're going to finish the season with Empoli. And then the last game that happened, it was actually the first game of the weekend, was Atalanta at Genoa. They won that one 3-2. Notably, Retegui netted another goal, and Pinamonti with the brace, who we kind of tweeted about. We think he's been a good one all year, but that wraps up an insane match week 37. Ton of goals, ton of drama. It's been crazy.
Yeah. Also on the Atalanta game, Danny Maldini, nice goal as well. And then Sulemana, 2 goals, 2 very, very good goals in 2 games in a row.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Also, Atalanta did offer Gasperini a contract till 2027. So we'll see if they do extend him. We obviously, everything's been trending. He's going to leave. But as we spoke about a couple weeks ago, where are the suitors for him? There's not much out. So will be interesting to see. But bringing it back to the relegation battle, a lot of teams in that battle got points today. That is going to play a factor in the last match week to potentially help them stay up. The only team that really kind of fumbled the bag here was Venezia, being that they started the match week out of relegation and now they're back in it. Need a win against Juventus to even have a chance of staying in, and then they need help from other people as well.
Yeah, I want to get into match week 38 then? And we'll quickly preview it, kind of give you an idea what's going on.
Yep.
All right, cool. Serie A has done a terrible job with scheduling. I'm going to preface it with that. I don't know why they did it. They literally got everything completely wrong. So really quickly, I'm going to take you Friday, Saturday, Sunday. On Friday, the Scudetto race is going to be decided. For some reason, the only 2 games are the Inter game and the Napoli game. I don't know why that game would not be on Sunday, saving the best for last. But nonetheless, we have Napoli at home against Cagliari with a chance to close it out in Naples, which would be amazing. And Inter going to Como. Both teams, Inter and Napoli, playing the Cagliari side and Como side that have nothing to play for. Presumably, they both win, you would think, although Cagliari and Como might want us to be playing spoilers.
Yep.
So interesting to watch. Hate that the game's on Friday. Quick thoughts there, Mats. I think there's no way Napoli don't win it. At home, it's going to be a madhouse.
Listen, I mean, I thought that they were going to win all their games. So at this point, anything can happen, as Calcio has shown us all year long. But I want to focus on the scheduling more than the games themselves. It just makes no sense. Like now, if you are an average person who is like, do I want to watch the Serie A? All you need to do now is watch Friday, and then there are implications in terms of what happens in the league standings on Sunday, the last day. But the big question is who wins the Scudetto. And so you just need to watch on Friday, and then it's like, okay, I see it all. Like it's always it's just a common thing across all of Europe. Save the trophy winning game for the last match day. It's a copycat league. Look at the other leagues and do something similar. It's such a bad move by Italy and Serie A, and classic. Makes no sense.
And
who do they have in charge?
And it's in the middle of the workday for all of us. It's just
I'd also I want to go back and look at every single match week, the games that are on 2:45 on Friday, they're always. I mean, you might sometimes get like a top 5, top 6 team and put them on Friday, so you have a decent game. But most games every time are either Saturday night or Sunday night, or those are the big teams, big games. Why all of a sudden changed up? It makes no sense. And to your point, it shoots you in the Achilles for your United States watchers, who you have a lot of on Paramount Plus network, because exactly like you said, it is a Friday. It's a close to Memorial Day weekend, or it is Memorial Day weekend, so people probably took a long weekend, but you're still killing half your audience potentially by putting it at 2:45 on a Friday. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I'm pissed about it. I don't know how I'm gonna
And
watch that.
then you have the games that mean nothing in the middle. So then it's like an even longer wait for the more games that do matter. So
Yeah, so
there
then
was
going to
no.
Saturday. Yeah, so for us, the games that don't really matter, I don't know why you wouldn't put them on Friday, where like people aren't really gonna watch because they gotta work, and like it's Friday, like doesn't make any sense. So on Saturday we have Bologna playing Genoa. Genoa have nothing to play for. Bologna are kind of have nothing to play for because the best they can get is Conference League, and even like they've already beaten that. So this game doesn't matter. And then Milan are playing Monza. Monza's relegated. Milan have nothing to play for. So I don't really know what's going on.
It makes no sense. To the Serie A, a 2-year-old could have got this right. Games that don't matter Friday, 4, 5, 6 European spots Saturday, champion Scudetto, save the best for last Sunday. Makes no sense. Anybody could have got that right if you asked them. I don't know how you messed that up. I want to know who's in charge and who made that decision, because they should immediately be fired.
I
Anybody could have got that right.
no, I agree with you. I agree with you. It doesn't make any sense. But that brings us to Sunday, which apparently is only the games that matter, minus the Scudetto race for some reason. So I'm just gonna take through all the games and kind of what's at stake in each one, because it's Sunday is still gonna be crazy. Like this is like you need 8 screens at once to know what is going on. The table's gonna be moving the entire time. We've got Juve going to Venezia. So at stake in this one, Juve Champions League football, Europa League football, potentially Conference League football, depending on the result, which is crazy. And then Venezia need to win. If they don't win, they finish the season in 19th place. So that's going to be insane. So relegation on the line there. Then we got Lecce going to Lazio. Same thing. Lazio potentially can get Champions League football. Worst case for them, they can get bounced from the Conference League if things don't go their way with Fiorentina. So a lot of craziness there. Lecce, again, tied with Empoli. So presumably they need at least a draw, assuming Empoli also doesn't get points. So it's crazy all there.
Lecce are going to be playing to win, because if they draw, it's not in their hands. The Lecce win, they stay in the Serie A.
And Lazio, I think, would probably be happy with a draw on that one. So that creates a little bit of a difficult dynamic, because Lazio draw secures Europa League. Win
secures
Conference League. A win might get you something, but I mean, for them, they need European ball, I think, is its priority. So it might be a little bit tough there. No Marco Baroni in that game either, which is very interesting on the Lazio bench. Then we got Fiorentina going to Udinese. Fiorentina with a win could potentially get Conference League football, depending on the Lazio result. Udinese playing for nothing. Then we got Roma going to Torino. We all know the stakes there. 1 point back from 4th place. Not fully in their hands to get Champions League football, but Juve are playing Venezia, who's fighting for something. Torino fighting for nothing. Roma got to get that one done. Then we got Parma going to Atalanta. Atalanta, obviously nothing to play for. They're in 3rd place. But Parma firmly in the relegation battle at this point. They are 2 points clear. So really nothing but a win 100% secures you at this point. And there could be a little bit of mix up there, but that's more or less it. And then the last game.
Yeah, Parma tie, that puts them on 34. So if Parma tie, Lecce and Empoli win, they're all tied on 34, and then we have a bunch of tiebreakers. So
which we'll go over in a sec.
We'll go over the tiebreakers, but Parma basically, if they win, they're safe. So a lot of these teams, besides maybe Lazio, right, is you need to win to be safe or put your best foot forward for your European spot.
And that brings us to the last game here, which is Verona at Empoli. And Verona are on 34 points, Empoli on 31 and 18th. And then the other piece of this is if Empoli win, they go even on points with Verona. Because of the tiebreaker situations, they would actually go ahead of Verona. So Verona need a point here. A point for Verona secures safety. A loss, you might be done.
So what is the tiebreaker situation, Bose? What does that look like?
Tiebreaker situation is really intense, and I had started to go through different scenarios, but it goes so deep that I couldn't do it. So the first thing is they look at points head to head. So that's in your game. So you get 3 points, 1 point, 0 point, they add them up. If at that point, and the other problem with this is I don't know what happens when it's a three-way tie, and that's why I stopped crunching the numbers because there are a lot of scenarios where three-way ties could happen. All right, you're tied head to head on points. You go to goal differential in head to head. You're tied there, goal differential in the league. If tied there, it goes to goals scored. If tied on goals scored, it's a coin flip. And I don't know what happens if you go to coin flip in a three-way tie, but there's no way that would happen. But that would be insane.
Yeah, I don't think the numbers would. There has to be non-time on one of those fours before there's a coin flip, and that's how it works for head-to-head. However, if Napoli and Inter end the league on the same amount of points, there is a playoff game to be played for the Scudetto, which would be fucking epic.
And home field advantage, if I'm not mistaken, in that one is determined by goal differential, I believe. It's either goal differential or head to head, and I can't remember which one it is. And the only scenario that happens is if Inter tie and Napoli lose. So it is possible that does happen. I mean,
it's highly unlikely playing two teams that need nothing. And what a win for Napoli would mean. You win the Scudetto, so they're going to probably die on the pitch, although a win in the last two would have meant that as well, and they haven't been able to do that. So could be an epic game, probably unlikely, very, very low chances of that, but still would be sick and epic if that did happen.
Yeah.
So match week 38 shaping up to be as crazy and chaotic as match week 37, but just a terrible, terrible timeline because the Serie A doesn't know how to schedule games and create suspense and get the buy-in of your average fan.
And then there is one more tiny little wrinkle in this. In the relegation battle, if there's tied, there's also potentially a playoff. So there's a relegation playoff still could happen in this instance. But that brings us to Serie B because there's been some drama there.
That does bring us to Serie B, and what happened? The news, or there was a Sampdoria basically got relegated, I think like a week ago. That they were going down to Serie C, Serie C. However, in classic Italian fashion, a team, Brescia, did not, due to financial irregularities, they just didn't pay their players essentially, or something to do with not paying the correct wages to their players. They were given a 4-point deduction, which then drops them below Sampdoria. So now Sampdoria jumps up to 17th place, which means they stay in Serie B. However, that means they're tied on points with Salernitana at 17th place. So now, in order to see who stays up in Serie B, there is that playoff game for relegation that Vos mentioned could happen if ties happen in the Serie A. This game was supposed to be today, but because of the point deduction and all the investigations, things like that, it is suspended or postponed indefinitely. And once again, I said it about the scheduling. I'm going to say it about this game. This is in the Serie A, so I can't say classic Serie A, but it is in Italy. Classic Italy here. Just fucking pay the players and you stay up in the league. There are always these owners in these old clubs, these dinosaurs for owners. They're trying to always do something smart and it ends up backfiring, and then it leads in point deductions. Juve's gotten it before. Now it's all the way happened in Serie B. Just, it doesn't make any sense. Just figure your shit out, basically.
Yeah. So that wraps it up. We got 1 week left, potentially 2 weeks left. if there's some funny business with playoffs. And then we got a Champions League final around the corner too, which we'll have to do an episode just about that. Talk about Inter Milan there. But before we're done, we have our last Colpy of the year. Last week we went 1 for 3. I was the only one that hit. We've done a bad job tracking this year, so we're gonna have to get really down and dirty with the tracking. Obviously, Logs is not here, so we're gonna need a Paisan leg. But Mons, you want to kick us off?
Yep, I'm going with the old lady. Win and we secure Champions League. I'm backing them, just like I have all season long, even though they stink and they can shrink in big moments. And I really think this is a massive moment, and Venezia is going to know how big that moment is for them, and Juventus aren't. But I will never go against my team, the old lady. I got Juventus money line. It's a very, very bad odd bet, so not going to be winning a lot of money for the Paisans if they take the Colpy this week. Juve is coming in at minus 185 away from home in a tough place to play like Venezia, who's going to be dying on the field. So probably not the best and smartest bet here, but I want them. I know what a win means for this club, so I'm backing them Juve money line.
I don't love it.
I don't care. I hate your pick too.
I've got Lazio at home, money line against Lecce. I like it. It also comes in at minus 185. So we need a big fat Paisan leg. The problem is there's not a lot of good odds out there that I agree with. So that's how we got stuck here. But that's it for us. Next time we talk, we'll have a Scudetto champ. And we'll know,
Yeah,
we might know who's been relegated. We might have a playoff. A lot to say.
Yeah, if you're still with us, please like the video, comment on the video, subscribe on YouTube, wherever you're listening. Been a little bit more active on social media. That's looking to continue. So looking forward to that. Once again, please like, subscribe, comment, vote. Where can they find us?
We're on all the things. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. What else are we on? The name it all? Miss one?
Apple Music,
Apple Music,
Spotify.
at Calcio Culture FC. But we're going to be here, guys. We're going to be here next week. We're going to be here all summer. We're really building out the content. You should see a lot of stuff coming out now. Me and Mott's really got the infrastructure down. But with that, Mott's, you want to kick us away here?
Yep, looking forward to a crazy match week 38. Going to be awful in terms of the way that we see everything happen just because of the scheduling, but it is what it is. With that said, this has been another great episode of Calcio Culture. Paisanos, do not be a gagoots, and Forza Calcio Culture.